I spent 13 years reading every relationship book I could get my hands on, listening to all of the podcasts about how to communicate in your relationship, really looking in at myself, going to therapy, doing meditations and journaling and sound healing and cacao ceremonies and all the things. And I still could not feel safe in my relationship because what was happening is I was looking for safety in all the wrong places. And take it from me that you can consume all of the knowledge in the world and still feel unsafe in your relationship because you know just as well as I do that the answers aren't out there. And so today we're going to be talking about how to cultivate unshakable safety within yourself, regardless of external circumstances, and really knowing this gap between knowing things intellectually and actually living them in your life via your body's information. And so if you are ready to learn how to trust your body's wisdom over everyone else's opinions, then let's dive in. Do you know in your bones that you're meant for a life that feels free and expansive? Are you ready for a conscious relationship that honors every facet of who you are as a woman, partner, mama, professional, and everything in between? If so, you're in the right place. I'm Kaya Dawn, a conscious relationship and shadow work guide who helps high-achieving, spiritual-minded women trust their body's wisdom and create partnerships where they feel just as supported as they are supportive. Lace up those sneakers, babe, and let's go on a hot girl walk together to dish about what it means to be the woman behind it all. I've talked about this a lot on this podcast before, but honestly, I can't shut the fuck up about it because cultivating safety within yourself first is an absolutely vital component to your process and cultivating the type of relationships and life that you want. And honestly, it's a foundation of everything that I'm about. It's a core pillar in my messaging, in my coaching, in my belief, in my values. And I'm going to continue to talk about it because my purpose as a leader, as a human on this earth, is to help this information penetrate into the cells of your being so that you actually embody it versus intellectualizing it. Like, I want you to integrate this information into every aspect of your being. And so we're going to talk about it again today, about how to cultivate this internal safety within yourself that ripples out into every other area of your life, especially your intimate relationship. And so let's dive in here by talking about this gap between knowing intellectually and embodying. And I already touched on this a little bit, but really, I can speak into this to nauseum because I did this for so long. I was reading all of the self-help books. I was listening to the podcasts and watching the YouTube videos. I was going to counseling, both individual and couples. I could quote Brene Brown and Tony Robbins in my sleep. I knew about attachment styles and communication techniques. But what was actually happening was, despite knowing all of that, I was walking on eggshells in my home. I was making myself smaller to keep the peace. I was blaming, shaming, and judging myself and other people. I lost hearing in my right ear due to stress. I lost a baby at 5 months. You guys, this is vitally important because I know that you are doing the same. You're doing all the research outside of yourself, which is fabulous and a part of your journey, and keep doing it to a degree. Absolutely. And I know that you also are having physical manifestations within your body. I know that you witness yourself shrinking in your relationship or in certain environments or in certain experiences. I know that there is a deeper message being conveyed to you, just like it was to me. And so it's really about identifying this realization that knowing things intellectually does not equal embodied wisdom. And really what's happening is you're overriding your body's sacred information just like I was, right? My nervous system was telling me a different story than what my mind was perpetuating. And I was seeking safety from something and some other people that couldn't give it to me. And really, when it comes down to it, safety is not a mindset, it is a felt experience in your body. And so, the truth that is really being overridden in these kind of experiences, if you're resonating with me, is that, well, let's actually go to what I thought was happening, right? So I was feeling anxious inside my body, and I labeled that as being too sensitive. I needed to like toughen up. I needed to stop being so emotional, right? And so that meant that I pushed through and ignored physical sensations within my body, gut feelings that I just rationalized away, right? I justified um, behaviors, opinions, perspectives, ways of being that was really sacred information. And the heart wisdom that I knew what was coming through, I just intellectualized it. Right. I was like looking for reasons, and I was really denying this soul truth with logic. But babies, you know this just as well as I do. The nervous system and your spirit and your intuition, those don't run on logic. They run on energy. They run on these subtle influences and bodies and sensations that the mind can't make sense of, right? It's energetics, it's spiritual, it's emotional, it's on a different plane than our 3D logical reality wants us to consider. And so for me, many of you know this, in March of 2020 was my turning point. I had a miscarriage at 5 months. I realized in that hospital bed that I had done it to myself. My survival instincts were smarter than any relationship advice that I had been given or I had read, because really, the survival instinct of giving myself this miscarriage, which is like so, it was such a devastating thing to fully accept and come to terms with. But at the same time, I knew that it happened for a reason. And I'm really grateful that it happened in ways, because obviously it was a majorly catalytic moment in my life. And I hope that you don't have the same kind of experience that I've had, but I hope by me sharing my story that you are recognizing what maybe the physical manifestations within your body are trying to tell you, so that ideally you don't experience what I have experienced. And I can like do my best. If I can just like save one person from going through the devastation that I experienced, then I'm doing my job. And really, it's this core message of my body knew things were unsafe before my mind was ready to admit it. And please come into my DMs and let me know if this resonates with you. Leave a comment on Spotify, leave a review. Please, just like, let's keep the conversation going, because this is vitally important. If you only admit this to yourself first and then to me, I would love to hold that space for you, because honestly, coming to terms with it and admitting it is the first step in this process. And it's really this recognition that you can't keep overriding this sacred information, which is what I had to come to terms with myself. And so it's also about facing this hard truth that more books aren't going to fix this. Better communication techniques can absolutely help, but they aren't the answer. I knew how to communicate, and I knew I also wasn't being completely honest with myself. I needed to stop researching, and I needed to start trusting myself. And so the work here is to really face your truth and embody it. And so let's start by diving into the actual practices that I started to cultivate this inner safety. So, the first thing is I started treating my body's signals as sacred information. I started recognizing that whenever my shoulders were tense, this was valuable data. And when my jaw was clenched, that I needed to pay attention. And whenever my stomach was in knots, that this really matters to me. And the solar plexus constriction, where it just feels like it's collapsing in and I want to shrink and go internal, that there's a massive truth in there. And before, I really thought that these were problems that I needed to fix, instead of this deep intuitive guidance to follow. And that held me back for so long. And so, really starting to recognize your body's signal as this sacred information that's really trying to guide you back home to yourself is the first step. And so, the second thing that I did was I gave myself the nourishment that I was lacking. The truth is, I was severely malnourished in my relationship. And so, whenever I realized this, I started to be the love that I seeked, right? I started to fall in love with myself every single day in ways big and small. I started taking myself on coffee dates or shopping for myself or going on hikes and going on a backpacking trip. I just really let it be the smallest things that meant the most that helped me rebuild this sense of trust and respect and pride and worthiness of myself that nobody outside of myself could give me. I had to give that to myself because I had the data, the information, the evidence that after doing that for so many years that it was never going to happen. And so I took back the reins and did it for myself. And I stopped making my partner responsible for my emotional state. I was so codependent on him for my happiness for so long that it left us both feeling depleted because he was also doing the same. And so, whenever I started filling my own cup and being my own source of happiness, that's when things started to flip. I also learned how to self soothe when activated. I got a lot better at energetic boundaries and recognized that whatever the emotional state of the other person was not mine to deal with. It wasn't mine to manage. It wasn't my responsibility. And I only took responsibility for my inner state. So that was the second thing. The third thing that I did was I did some massive inner child healing work. I recognized that these patterns started before my marriage. I traced them back to my family dynamics and the survival instincts that I learned at a really young age. And I really went deep in practicing forgiveness and acceptance for myself for what it took for me to get to that point, all of the learning that I had to do along the way, for, the present state that I was in that deepest low of my life. I just forgave and accepted myself from that in little bits at a time, right? It wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to do this one day and then everything's all good. No, it was a continual practice. And I loved on those parts of myself that had been in survival and really integrating these coping mechanisms that had served me for a really long time that weren't serving me anymore. And in this forgiveness and acceptance work, I really learned to release the patterns that I had inherited, at least a little bit at a time. I'm not fully healed even right now. I recognize that I still have patterns that come up from childhood in my current relationship, even though my current relationship is super safe and ushy gushy and so good. But it's a process, right? Like none of us are ever fully healed. And yet at the same time, the more that we can recognize what's happening and recognize the forgiveness and acceptance that's available to us, it helps those patterns release their grip on us. And it makes it a lot easier to dance with them and also to recognize them when they continue to come up over time and they won't hit you as hard or keep you down for as long. And another aspect that I already spoke into was I started to create energetic boundaries like a mofo because I was sick of letting other people influence my energy, my good vibes. And again, this is a continued practice and nothing is perfect, but if a conversation was getting heated, I removed myself. If there was a situation that was draining me when other people thought I should say yes or do what I had done in the past, I said no out of respect for myself and respect for others. I wasn't ever like rude or a bitch, but I just said no because I wasn't available for that anymore. I again let my partner be in his own emotional experience without me having to fix it. I stopped making his moods mean something about me, and I created my own bubble of energy because I was still living in this toxic environment for a good while after I made this decision of like, this is not serving me anymore. I am emotionally moving on from this relationship. And so creating that energetic bubble was absolutely necessary. Also, I practiced radical self validation. I stopped making myself wrong for the way that I felt. I stopped making myself wrong for the things that I wanted. I validated those desires as legitimate. I met myself in my pain without judgment. I did my best to turn off those internal fire alarms with compassion and love. I just like doused myself in love and understanding and forgiveness and acceptance and empathy. And I asked myself, what is this feeling trying to tell me? And lastly, I did daily check ins. I mean, I was journaling every morning on my back porch, and I just would ask myself that morning, what do I want to feel today? How do I want to be? And throughout the day, I would ask myself, what do I need right now to feel safe? And sometimes that meant I needed to go on a walk. I needed to go work out. I needed to journal. I needed to dance in the kitchen with my baby. I needed to cook. I needed to clean. I used to like rage clean. But having a tidy environment is what makes me feel safe in my environment, both internally and externally. And so I did that. Also, taking baths, calling a friend, reading a book. I just really honored whatever came up for me without judgment. And I showed up for myself in ways that I never had before. And this made cultivating that safety a super intentional practice of really coming home to myself. And again, just falling in love with myself. Even though this was like one of the hardest times in my life, it was also one of the most fun. And really, it was just this aspect of coming home to myself that I had never experienced before. And it felt fresh and new and exciting and exhilarating because it was one of the first times that I did this for me. Because I remember at the very beginning of starting this work, I was like, who even am I? Like, what do I like? What do I want to do? How do I want to spend my time without these external influences, you know, sneaking their way into my psyche, telling me what I should do or think I should do or how I should feel and all these things. And so, what changed when I did this work of like really clarifying who am I? What do I want to be? How do I want to feel? How do I want to show up? My internal experience shifted. I could then trust my gut without these external confirmations and validations. My anxiety, my postpartum depression and anxiety that I experienced after that miscarriage decreased. I even got off medication at some point. I stopped scanning my environment for threats because I knew that things outside of me couldn't really shake me. Like, yeah, maybe a little bit, but the internal fortitude that I had cultivated was bar none to what I'd ever experienced before. I felt unshakable within myself. And I knew that I was safe regardless of external circumstances. And so my relationship transformed. My relationship with my ex that I was still in relationship with transformed. It became not perfect by any means or like fully healthy, but it became, there was like more spaciousness in the energetics of it because I wasn't totally attached. I wasn't totally needing him to be responsible for my feelings or anything like that. Like I let him off the hook. I was doing my own thing. And it just created this more spaciousness for us to have real conversations, to hold conflict without losing control. I showed up differently with my daughter, which was like one of the most important things ever about this work. I could be vulnerable and honest with my ex husband. And he respected me more for my self respect that I had cultivated and with my directness and with my honesty. And our dynamic became more mature and loving, even though it was confirmed that, we were growing in separate directions. And so it really came down to this like unexpected ripple of having my heart break so deeply that all that was left was love. And what happened after that was like I could give love freely without needing it back from other people. I was just so full within myself that I was just overflowing and exuding this. And because of that, I was able to attract different types of relationships and conversations and opportunities and experiences. And now I'm in an incredible relationship with my fiance, Christian. It is so juicy and delicious and compatible that I'm just like over the moon. And I am sharing this because I know that this is possible for you whenever you choose to listen to yourself and honor your truth and what you need and what you want in your relationship. And if this means that your relationship can be saved and salvaged and brought back together and grow closer together and like really go deep with each other, that is what I want. I don't necessarily want you to leave your current relationship. I want you to cultivate the depth and the safety and connection within that you can. If your partner is willing to meet you there and do the work with you, incredible. Please, baby, do it. Relationships are our mirrors, and that's their point, is to help us grow as individuals in those. And at the same time, if your partner isn't willing to meet you there and it's just not compatible, then it's also okay to leave because there are other people out there who can love you in the ways that you want to be loved. and know you're available to be loved. And because I was able to make that decision for myself, my daughter now gets to see what a safe, conscious relationship looks like. And what became possible was I was able to separate from my ex husband with mutual respect and support and communication. And even though that trust was eroded in regard to our intimacy and connection, we could still co parent with respect and support and really do what's best for our daughter, which she was the highest priority, of course. Um, both of us were able to salvage ourselves through this process because he had a self fulfilling prophecy that I was going to leave him anyway. No matter what I did over those 13 years, I was damned if I did, damned if I didn't. And he had to realize that he was going to be okay if this relationship ended because energetically, spiritually, emotionally, he was pushing me away for so long because he needed to do that work on himself. And so he was able to really come home to himself in his own journey and his own timing as well. And again, I was able to attract in Christian who matches my consciousness and receptivity and strength and intellectualism and spirituality, even if he's not as woo woo as I am. It's just our energy is very, very compatible. And this created a new legacy for my daughter. And I know that this is possible for you as well. And so, really wrapping up here, it's all about answering that call that's coming from inside the house. You can't give to others what you haven't cultivated within yourself first. Your external safety is really a reflection of the internal safety that you've cultivated. Your body's wisdom is greater than anyone else's knowledge or opinions or perspective. And it's great to seek counsel and get support. However, your truth comes first. Okay. And so trust your nervous system over logic and really feel first. Allow yourself to truly unpack what you're experiencing, what you're feeling, and then understand second, because your relationship is your laboratory. It's a mirror for where you get to shed more light and love and acceptance and forgiveness and understanding. And the triggers that happen within it are really here to show you what needs more attention. Like, why are you getting triggered? What is it trying to show you? What's the deep truth underneath maybe that secondary emotion of anger or frustration or disappointment or resentment or bitterness? It really comes back to your relationship with yourself. And so just know that integration of all of this information, it happens through doing, not knowing. Again, put all the books aside, put all the podcasts, all the YouTube videos, and just go within yourself. Tap into your stillness, tap into your aloneness, and find vitality there. Find your truth, find your core, and know that your lived wisdom of what your body is communicating with you matters more than any external opinion, circumstance, perspective. And so, what you need truly is not more knowledge. You need to listen deeply. You don't need more resources. You need to trust yourself. You are the resource, my love. You don't need someone else to make you feel safe. You have to cultivate that within yourself for the external safety to be a reality. You do not need to fix your partner. You need to come home to yourself first because that will shift the dynamic in your relationship. And you don't need external validation, even though I will tell you, you're doing a great job. I love you. I see you. I am you. We're the same. And please, baby, validate yourself first. That's really what is happening right now, what you need to do. And so, moving forward, really what I want you to take away from this conversation is to pay attention to your body signals as sacred information. Really do those daily check-ins about how do you want to feel today? What's the energy you want to bring to the environment and to your relationship and experiences? What do you need to feel safe right now? And how can you give that to yourself? And then practice these, self-validating moments throughout the day. Gentle parenting. You're doing a great job. I see you. I love you. Keep it up, instead of self-judgment, right? These self-deprecating thoughts and beliefs. You can shift that inner narrative. And when you can shift your inner narrative to being that of love and understanding and empathy and compassion and encouragement, wow, is it a game changer? Also, create energetic boundaries with people and situations that drain you. It's okay to do that. You have every right to do that. And also, fall in love with yourself in ways big and small every single day. Make that vow to yourself and keep it, because that is what's going to build this strong foundation of self-respect and love and trust and excitement and pride and eagerness and anticipation for what's to come. And you're going to create all of these juicy, delicious opportunities and experiences and emotions in your body that feel elating and expansive. And it's all available for you. And so I hope you got a lot of value out of this conversation. I also want to let you know, too, that I have something very special coming to you as well very soon. My plan is to drop it on Thursday with Thursday's episode. I'm hoping I can get it done by then, but if not, it will definitely be done soon. But do stay tuned and keep your eyes out and keep listening and keep tuning in. And thank you so much for being here. I am so grateful for every single one of you who give me your time and attention and support on this podcast and on my social media and even in my firsthand one-to-one relationships with you and connections. I love you so much. I will have some reflection questions for you in the show notes as well. And so have a beautiful rest of your day. Keep going. I'm so proud of you. You're doing a great job. I love you so much. All right. Be brave, not perfect. And I'll catch you again soon. I hope this episode reminded you that life and love are supposed to feel safe and expansive and gave you clarity on the next right step you can take in your relationship. If so, please take 30 seconds to leave a review. Each one helps get this content into the ears and hearts of women just like you. I'm excited to hang out again soon, having more conversations on how to create the relationships you've always dreamed of. Keep following what feels expansive, babe. You're so worthy of it all.